My dear listeners, today I begin a story that will touch your heart and make you think about the choices we make in life. This is the story of a young woman named Maya who stood at a crossroads between love and money and the decision that changed her life forever. So sit back, relax, and let me take you into her world. The morning sun streamed through the window of a small but cozy bedroom, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air like tiny fairies. Maya stood before her mirror, her heart beating with excitement and nervousness. Today was her wedding day. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, admiring the beautiful red lehenga she wore. The gold embroidery sparkled in the sunlight, and the jewelry she wore made her feel like a princess. Her friends surrounded her, adjusting her dress and complimenting her beauty. "You look stunning, Maya," her best friend Priya exclaimed. "Vikram is the luckiest man in the world." Maya smiled, but deep inside, she felt a small twinge of doubt. She pushed it away, telling herself that she was making the right choice. She was marrying Vikram, a successful businessman who could give her everything she ever wanted. But her mind wandered back to 6 months ago when her life was very different. Flashback 6 months earlier. Maya lived with her parents in a simple house in a middle-class neighborhood. Her father worked as a clerk in a government office, and her mother was a school teacher. They weren't poor, but they weren't rich either. Maya had just completed her college education and was looking for a job. She was known throughout her neighborhood for her beauty, long black hair, sparkling brown eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. One sunny afternoon, Maya was at the local library, looking for books to help her prepare for job interviews. She was searching for a book on communication skills when she heard a gentle voice behind her. "Looking for this," the voice said. Maya turned around to see a young man holding out the exact book she needed. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. He was dressed simply in a clean white shirt and dark trousers. "How did you know?" Maya asked, surprised. "I saw you looking through that section for the last 10 minutes, he said with a friendly smile. "I'm Rohan. I work as a teacher at the school next door." That was how Maya met Rohan. They started talking and soon they became friends. Rohan was everything a girl could want: kind, intelligent, and caring. He remembered small details about her, like how she liked her tea with just a little sugar and how she loved reading poetry. He would often bring her flowers from his garden and books he thought she would enjoy. Rohan didn't have much money. He lived in a small apartment and rode a bicycle to work. But what he lacked in wealth, he made up for with his big heart. He loved Maya deeply and sincerely. When he looked at her, his eyes shone with genuine love and admiration. One evening, as they sat in the park watching the sunset, Rohan held Maya's hand and said, "Maya, I may not be able to give you a big house or expensive cars, but I can promise you a life filled with love and happiness. Will you marry me?" Maya's heart swelled with joy. She loved Rohan too, but before she could answer, doubts began to creep into her mind. Her friends always talked about marrying rich men who could give them luxurious lives. Her mother often said, "Beta, love doesn't pay the bills." She remembered all the times she had to say no to things she wanted because her family couldn't afford them. "I need some time to think, Rohan," she said softly. Rohan understood. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'll wait for you." A week later, Maya's aunt invited her to a party. "There will be many rich people there," her aunt said. "Maybe you'll meet someone suitable." Maya was reluctant to go, but her mother insisted. "Just see what happens," her mother said. "There's no harm in looking at other options." The party was at a luxurious hotel. Maya felt out of place in her simple dress among women wearing designer outfits and expensive jewelry. She was standing in a corner, feeling uncomfortable, when a handsome man in an expensive suit approached her. "You look lost," he said with a confident smile. "I'm Vikram." Vikram was everything Rohan wasn't: rich, sophisticated, and worldly. He owned a successful business and lived in a big house. When he learned that Maya had come to the party with her aunt, he immediately showed interest in her. "Can I get you a drink?" he asked. Throughout the evening, Vikram stayed by Maya's side. He told her about his business, his travels to foreign countries, and his luxurious lifestyle. He showed her pictures of his house and his expensive car. "Life is meant to be enjoyed," Vikram said. "Why struggle when you can have the best of everything?" When the party ended, Vikram dropped Maya home in his luxury car. As she got out of the car, she saw her neighbors watching with envy. For the first time, she felt the thrill of being with someone important and wealthy. The next day, flowers arrived for Maya, a huge bouquet of red roses with a note from Vikram. "Thank you for a wonderful evening. Looking forward to seeing you again. Vikram." Her mother was thrilled. "See, this is what I was talking about. He's perfect for you." Over the next few weeks, Vikram showered Maya with attention and gifts. He took her to expensive restaurants, bought her designer clothes, and introduced her to his rich friends. Meanwhile, Rohan continued to see Maya, but their meetings became less frequent. When they did meet, Rohan could sense that something had changed. "Are you okay, Maya?" he asked one day. "You seem different." Maya didn't know how to tell Rohan about Vikram. She knew it would hurt him, but she was becoming increasingly attracted to the luxurious life Vikram offered. One evening, Vikram took Maya for a drive in his new car. It was the latest model, with leather seats and all the latest features. As they drove through the city, people turned to look at them. "This can be your life every day," Vikram said. "No more worrying about money. No more counting every rupee. You can have whatever you want." He parked the car near a jewelry store. "Come," he said, "let me buy you something beautiful." Inside the store, Vikram bought Maya a diamond necklace worth more than her father earned in a year. Maya felt guilty but also excited. She had never owned anything so expensive. That night, Maya had a long conversation with her parents. "Rohan is a good boy," her father said, "but will he be able to give you the life you deserve?" "Think about your future," her mother added. "With Vikram, you'll never have to worry about anything. You'll live like a queen." Her friends had similar opinions. "Are you crazy?" Priya said. "Vikram is rich and handsome. Why would you choose a school teacher over him?" The pressure was too much for Maya. She thought about all the things she could have with Vikram: a big house, expensive clothes, foreign vacations. She thought about the respect she would get from everyone. Most of all, she thought about never having to worry about money again. The next day, she met Rohan at their favorite cafe. She could see the hope in his eyes, and it broke her heart. "Rohan," she began, her voice trembling, I can't marry you." Rohan's face fell. "Why? What happened? Is it because of money? I promise I'll work hard. I'll give you everything." "It's not just about money," Maya interrupted, though she knew it was a lie. "It's about compatibility. Our lives are going in different directions." Rohan looked at her with sad eyes. "Is there someone else?" Maya nodded, unable to meet his gaze. "His name is Vikram. He's a businessman." "I see," Rohan said quietly. "I hope he makes you happy." He stood up to leave, then turned back. "Just remember, Maya, true happiness doesn't come from money. It comes from love. If you ever need me, I'll be here." Watching Rohan walk away, Maya felt a pain in her heart. But she convinced herself that she was making the right decision. She was choosing security over love, comfort over uncertainty. The engagement ceremony with Vikram was a grand affair. It was held at a five-star hotel with hundreds of guests. Vikram's family and friends were all wealthy and sophisticated. Maya's family felt out of place among them, but they were happy that their daughter was marrying into a rich family. Vikram gave Maya an engagement ring with a huge diamond. "This is just the beginning," he whispered in her ear. "I'm going to give you everything you ever dreamed of." As the preparations for the wedding began, Maya threw herself into the excitement of planning a lavish ceremony. She chose the most expensive venue, the best caterer, and the most famous designer for her wedding dress. There were parties and celebrations almost every day. But sometimes, in quiet moments, she thought about Rohan. She wondered what he was doing, how he was feeling. She missed their simple conversations and the way he made her laugh. She missed the feeling of being truly loved for who she was, not for how she looked. One day, while shopping for wedding jewelry with her mother, Maya saw Rohan across the street. He was helping an old woman cross the road. He looked tired and sad. Maya's heart ached seeing him, but she quickly pushed the feeling away. "Don't think about him," her mother said, noticing her expression. "You're making the right choice. Love alone doesn't put food on the table." The wedding day arrived. As Maya got ready in her beautiful lehenga, she tried to focus on her happiness. She was marrying a rich, successful man. She would have everything she ever wanted. The doubts and fears were just wedding jitters, she told herself. The wedding ceremony was even more grand than the engagement. There were over 500 guests, a famous band, and enough food to feed a small village. Maya moved through the ceremonies like she was in a dream, smiling for the cameras and accepting congratulations. But in the middle of the ceremony, she saw him. Rohan was standing at the back of the hall, watching her with tears in his eyes. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Maya felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. For a moment, Maya wanted to run after him, to tell him she had made a terrible mistake. But then she looked at Vikram, who was smiling proudly, and at her parents, who looked so happy. She looked at the expensive jewelry she wore and remembered the luxurious life that awaited her. She took a deep breath and continued with the ceremony, pushing all doubts out of her mind. This was her choice, and she would live with it. After the ceremony, as she prepared to leave with Vikram, her mother hugged her tightly. "Be happy, my child," she whispered. "I will, Mama," Maya said, trying to sound confident. She got into Vikram's luxury car, the same car that had first attracted her to him. As they drove away from the wedding venue, she looked back at her family, waving goodbye. She was starting a new life, a life of luxury and comfort. All her dreams were coming true. Or so she thought. The luxury car moved smoothly through the city streets, its tinted windows separating Maya from the world she had always known. She sat in the plush leather seat, her beautiful red lehenga spread around her like a pool of blood. The gold embroidery glittered under the soft interior lights, but the sparkle felt hollow now. Vikram sat beside her, scrolling through messages on his phone, already treating her like part of the furniture. "Beautiful wedding, wasn't it?" he said without looking up from his screen. "My business partners were quite impressed with you." Maya nodded silently, her eyes fixed on the passing city lights. She could still see Rohan's tear-filled eyes in her memory, that one heartbreaking moment when their gazes had met across the wedding hall. The image was burned into her mind, and try as she might, she couldn't shake it off. "You're quiet," Vikram noted, finally putting his phone away. "Not having second thoughts, are you?" "No, of course not," Maya said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just tired from all the ceremonies." Vikram nodded, satisfied. "You'll get used to it. There will be many parties and functions now that you're my wife. You need to learn to handle the social circuit." The car turned into a gated community that Maya had only ever seen in movies. Huge houses stood behind tall walls, with beautifully manicured gardens and security guards at every gate. When Vikram's car stopped before a massive iron gate, 2 security guards immediately snapped to attention and opened it. "Welcome to your new home," Vikram said as the car rolled up a long driveway. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The house was enormous, a 3-story white mansion with massive pillars and sprawling lawns. It looked like something from a magazine, too perfect to be real. As the car stopped at the grand entrance, a uniformed servant hurried to open the car door. "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, madam," the servant said with a deep bow. Vikram got out without acknowledging the greeting. "Bring the bags inside," he told the servant, then turned to Maya. "Come, I'll show you around." The tour of the house felt like walking through a luxury hotel. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, expensive artwork on the walls, everything was perfect, but cold and impersonal. There was no warmth, no sense that real people lived here. "These are the living areas," Vikram said, pointing to various rooms. "You can entertain guests here. The kitchen is through there, though you won't need to use it. We have cooks for that." He led her up a sweeping staircase to the second floor. "This is my wing," he said, pointing to one side of the hallway. "And this," he paused before a door, "is your room." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "My room, don't we? I mean, won't we be sharing a room?" Vikram gave her a strange smile. "We have separate rooms. I value my privacy. Don't worry, yours is just as luxurious as mine." He opened the door to reveal a massive bedroom that was indeed luxurious. A king-sized bed with silk sheets, a dressing table covered with expensive makeup and perfumes, a walk-in closet already filled with designer clothes. But to Maya, it felt like another showroom, beautiful but empty. "All this is for me," she whispered. "Everything you see is yours," Vikram said. "The clothes, the jewelry, everything. But there are rules you need to follow." He walked over to the dressing table and picked up a small remote control. "First rule, you don't leave the house without my permission. Second, you don't invite anyone here without checking with me first. Third, you're always to be properly dressed and presentable when I'm home." Maya listened, her heart sinking with each word. This wasn't what she had imagined married life would be like. "Now," Vikram continued, "about the car you like so much." He pointed the remote at the car keys she was still holding from their drive home. A small light on the key fob blinked, and it emitted a soft, persistent beep. "What's that?" Maya asked, confused. "That's your tracking device," Vikram said calmly. "The car is yours, just like I promised, but I always need to know where it is. I always need to know where you are." Maya stared at the key fob in her hand. The beautiful, expensive car keys now felt like handcuffs. "You're tracking me. Why?" "Because I don't trust easily," Vikram said, his voice cold. "And because everything I give comes with conditions. The car, the clothes, this house, they're all yours. But you belong to me now. Your time, your presence, your loyalty, they all belong to me." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. This wasn't the romantic wedding night she had dreamed of. This was a business transaction, and she was the purchased commodity. "Don't look so sad," Vikram said, though his voice held no warmth. "You got what you wanted: wealth, luxury, status. Now I get what I want: a beautiful wife who makes me look good in society. It's a fair exchange." He walked toward the door, then paused. "I have an early meeting tomorrow. The servants will serve you breakfast at 8. Don't be late." The door closed behind him, leaving Maya alone in her luxurious prison. She looked around the beautiful room, at the silk sheets, the crystal vases, the expensive paintings, and suddenly it all felt suffocating. She walked to the window and looked out at the perfectly manicured garden. The moonlight illuminated the swimming pool, the fountain, the expensive outdoor furniture. Everything was perfect, but it was the perfection of a museum, not a home. Slowly, she began removing her heavy wedding jewelry, the necklace, the earrings, the bangles. Each piece was worth a fortune, but they felt heavy and uncomfortable. She placed them carefully on the dressing table, then looked at her reflection in the mirror. The beautiful bride stared back at her, but the happiness was gone from her eyes. In its place was a deep, growing regret. She thought about Rohan, about how he would have held her hand, how he would have whispered sweet words, how he would have made her feel loved and cherished on their wedding night. A single tear escaped her eye and rolled down her cheek, then another and another. Soon she was crying openly, the sobs shaking her body. She cried for the love she had lost, for the choice she had made, for the golden cage she had willingly entered. She cried until her beautiful wedding makeup was ruined, until her eyes were red and swollen, until she had no tears left. Then she lay down on the expensive silk sheets, still wearing her wedding lehenga, and stared at the ornate ceiling. Outside, she could hear the faint sound of Vikram's voice as he spoke to the servants, giving instructions for the next day. His voice was calm, businesslike, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if it was perfectly normal for a bride to spend her wedding night alone in her room, crying. Maya closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept going back to Rohan, to his kind eyes, his warm smile, his genuine love. She remembered the last time they had been together when he had told her, "True happiness doesn't come from money, it comes from love." How right he had been, and how foolish she had been not to listen. The night passed slowly, each minute feeling like an hour. Maya watched the darkness outside her window gradually turn to gray, then to the soft pink of dawn. She hadn't slept at all. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and her heart felt heavy with regret. At exactly 8 a.m., there was a soft knock on her door. A maid entered, carrying a breakfast tray. She placed it on a table near the window without making eye contact with Maya. "Good morning, madam," the maid said softly. "Sir has asked that you be ready by 10 a.m. He wants to show you around the city." Maya nodded weakly, "Thank you." The maid left as quietly as she had entered. Maya looked at the breakfast tray, freshly squeezed orange juice, perfectly cooked eggs, toast, fruits arranged beautifully on a porcelain plate. It was exactly the kind of breakfast she had always dreamed of having. But now that she had it, she had no appetite. She forced herself to eat a few bites, then went to the bathroom to get ready. The bathroom was as luxurious as the bedroom: marble floors, gold-plated fixtures, a huge bathtub. But as Maya looked at her reflection in the mirror, she saw a stranger, a beautiful woman in a golden cage. She showered and changed into one of the expensive dresses from her new wardrobe. The fabric was soft and expensive, but it felt uncomfortable on her skin. She applied makeup to cover her puffy eyes, trying to look like the happy new bride she was supposed to be. At exactly 10 a.m., Vikram came to her room. He was dressed in an expensive suit and looked every bit the successful businessman. "Ready?" he asked, his eyes scanning her appearance critically. "You look presentable, good." He didn't ask how she had slept. He didn't ask if she was happy. He didn't even seem to notice that she had been crying. They drove through the city in silence. Vikram pointed out various landmarks: the expensive shopping malls, the five-star hotels, the exclusive clubs where his friends gathered. "This is where we'll be shopping," he said as they passed a luxury mall. "And this," he pointed to an exclusive club, "is where we'll be having dinner with my business partners tonight." Maya listened silently, her eyes taking in the luxurious surroundings, but her heart feeling nothing but emptiness. "About last night," Vikram said suddenly, as if reading her thoughts. "I know it wasn't what you expected, but this is how things are in my world. Marriage is a partnership, not a romance. You'll get used to it." "Did you ever love me?" Maya asked softly, the question escaping before she could stop it. Vikram glanced at her, surprised. "Love is for children and dreamers," he said. "We're adults. We have practical arrangements. You're beautiful, well-mannered, and from a decent family. I'm rich and successful. It's a good match." The answer felt like a physical blow. Maya turned to look out the window, hiding the fresh tears that threatened to fall. She had sold herself for a life of luxury, and now she was discovering the true cost. They returned home in the afternoon. Vikram went straight to his home office to work, while Maya was left to wander the huge, empty house. She tried exploring the different rooms, but each one felt just as cold and impersonal as her bedroom. In the library, she found shelves filled with expensive leather-bound books that looked like they had never been opened. In the living room, there were perfect white sofas that looked too pristine to actually sit on. In the garden, the flowers were arranged in perfect rows, with not a single petal out of place. Everything was perfect, but nothing felt real. Nothing felt like home. That evening, as she got ready for dinner with Vikram's business partners, She looked at herself in the mirror. She was wearing another expensive designer dress with diamond jewelry and perfect makeup. She looked like the wealthy socialite she had always dreamed of becoming. But the woman staring back at her had dead eyes. The dinner was at an expensive restaurant. Vikram's business partners and their wives were all wealthy and sophisticated. They complimented Maya on her beauty and her dress, but their conversations were shallow and focused on money, status, and possessions. "Vikram tells us you just got married yesterday," one of the women said. "How romantic." Maya forced a smile. "Yes, it was beautiful." "Vikram is quite a catch," another woman said, her eyes sweeping over Maya's jewelry. "You're a very lucky girl." "Yes," Maya said softly, "I'm very lucky." But as she sat there, surrounded by luxury and listening to empty conversations, she had never felt more unlucky in her life. She thought about what her life could have been with Rohan's simple dinners, heartfelt conversations, genuine love. When they returned home that night, Vikram seemed pleased. "You did well tonight," he said. "My partners were impressed. This is exactly why I married you." He went to his room without another word, leaving Maya standing alone in the grand hallway. She walked slowly to her room, the click of her heels echoing in the empty space. As she changed out of her expensive clothes and prepared for another lonely night, she realized that this was her life now. A beautiful prison with golden bars, a life of luxury without love, a marriage without warmth. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered how she could have been so foolish. She had chosen money over love, status over happiness, glitter over gold. And as she finally fell into a fitful sleep, she knew with certainty that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. The weeks that followed blurred into a monotonous routine of silent suffering. Maya's days became a carefully choreographed performance of being the perfect wealthy wife, while her nights were filled with lonely despair in her luxurious bedroom. Each morning began with the same ritual. The maid would arrive precisely at 8 a.m. with breakfast. Vikram would give her the day's instructions at 9 a.m., and she would spend the rest of the day wandering the enormous house like a ghost in a museum. One particularly difficult morning, Maya decided to visit her parents. She dressed carefully in one of her expensive outfits, applied makeup to hide the permanent sadness in her eyes, and went to find Vikram. He was in his home office, surrounded by multiple computer screens showing stock market charts. "I thought I'd visit my parents today," she said, trying to sound casual. Vikram didn't look up from his screens. "No," he said simply. Maya blinked, surprised. "What do you mean, no? They're my parents. I haven't seen them since the wedding." "Exactly," Vikram said, finally turning to look at her. "They're your old life. This is your new life. I don't want you getting influenced by their middle-class mentality." "But they're my family," Maya protested, her voice trembling. Vikram stood up, his expression cold. "Let me make this clear, Maya. When you married me, you left that life behind. Your family now consists of me and the social circle I've placed you in. You don't need to visit them. If necessary, they can visit you here with my permission, of course." Tears of frustration welled in Maya's eyes. "You can't keep me from seeing my own parents." "I can and I will," Vikram said calmly. "Remember the tracking device on your car. If you try to visit them without my permission, I'll know, and there will be consequences." He walked closer to her, his eyes narrowing. "You wanted this life, Maya. You chose the money, the cars, the luxury. Well, this is part of the package, my rules, my control, my way." Defeated, Maya turned and walked away, the tears now streaming down her face. She went to her room and collapsed on the bed, sobbing. This wasn't what she had signed up for. This wasn't the life she had dreamed of. Later that day, desperate for some connection to her old life, she called her mother. "Beta, how are you?" Her mother's cheerful voice came through the phone. Maya forced herself to sound happy. "I'm fine, Mama. Everything is wonderful. The house is beautiful. Vikram is kind." She could hear the smile in her mother's voice. "See, I told you you made the right choice. Everyone is talking about your wedding. They say it was the most beautiful wedding our family has ever seen." Maya listened as her mother chattered happily about the neighbors' reactions, the relatives' compliments, how proud they were of her. With every word, Maya felt like more of a fraud. She couldn't tell her mother the truth, that she was miserable, that she felt like a prisoner, that she regretted her decision every single day. After the call ended, Maya felt more alone than ever. She wandered through the huge house, her footsteps echoing in the empty spaces. She ended up in the library, staring at the untouched books. She pulled one out randomly, a collection of love poems. As she flipped through the pages, a particular verse caught her eye. "I chose the glittering gold, and let true love grow cold. Now in my gilded room, I face my lonely doom." The words hit her so hard that she had to sit down. It felt like the poem had been written just for her. She sat there for hours, reading poetry that spoke of love lost and choices regretted, each verse mirroring her own pain. Days turned into weeks, and Maya's isolation grew. Vikram continued to treat her as his trophy wife, beautiful to show off at parties, but otherwise irrelevant to his life. He traveled frequently for business, leaving her alone in the big house with only the servants for company. The servants, while polite, kept their distance, treating her with the same formal respect they showed Vikram. One afternoon, feeling particularly desperate for human connection, Maya decided to visit the nearby market. She told the driver to take her to the same market she used to visit with her mother. For the first time since her wedding, she felt a spark of genuine happiness as she recognized familiar shops and faces. She was browsing through a fabric store when she heard a voice that made her heart stop. "Maya." She turned slowly, her breath catching in her throat. There stood Rohan, holding a stack of books and looking at her with surprised eyes. He looked exactly the same, kind eyes, warm smile, though there was a new sadness in them that hadn't been there before. "Rohan," she whispered, her voice trembling. For a moment they just stared at each other, the noise of the market fading into background static. Then Rohan smiled gently. "You look different." Maya looked down at her expensive clothes, suddenly feeling ashamed of them. How have you been?" "I've been okay," he said. "Teaching keeps me busy. The children ask about you sometimes." The simple statement brought tears to Maya's eyes. She remembered visiting his school, how the children would run up to her, calling her Teacher Maya, how she would help them with their drawings and stories. "Rohan, she began, but words failed her. What could she say? That she had made a terrible mistake, that she was miserable, that she missed him every day. Rohan seemed to understand her struggle. "You don't have to say anything, Maya. I just hope you're happy. That's all I ever wanted for you." Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was Vikram. She hesitated, then answered. "Where are you?" Vikram's voice was cold and angry. I'm at the market," she stammered. "I can see that from the tracker," he said. "Come home immediately. We have guests arriving in an hour." The call ended abruptly. Maya looked at Rohan, her eyes filled with tears. "I have to go." Rohan nodded understandingly. "Take care of yourself, Maya." As she turned to leave, he added softly, "Remember, no matter what happens, you deserve to be happy. Really happy." The drive home was filled with tears and regret. Rohan's words echoed in her mind. "You deserve to be happy. Really happy." She knew she wasn't happy. She knew she hadn't been happy since the day she married Vikram. When she arrived home, Vikram was waiting for her at the door, his face dark with anger. "Who were you with?" he demanded. "What? How did you?" Maya began, then remembered the tracking device. Of course he knew she had stopped somewhere. "I saw you stopped at the market for 20 minutes, Vikram said. "And then I saw someone approach you. Who was it?" "It was an old friend," Maya said weakly. "Was it that teacher, Rohan?" Vikram's eyes narrowed. Maya didn't answer, which was answer enough. Vikram's face turned stony. "I see. Well, let me make this very clear. You are not to see him again. You are not to speak to him. If I find out you've been in contact with him, there will be serious consequences. Do you understand? Maya nodded, too frightened and defeated to speak. That's not good enough, Vikram said coldly. I want to hear you say it. I understand, Maya whispered. Good, Vikram said. Now go get ready. Our guests will be here soon. That night, as Maya played the part of the perfect hostess for Vikram's business associates, she felt like she was watching herself from a distance. She smiled, she made polite conversation, she laughed at the right moments, but inside she was breaking into pieces. After the guests left, Vikram seemed pleased. You did well tonight, he said. But remember what I said about that teacher. I'm watching you, Maya, always watching. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Rohan's words. You deserve to be happy, really happy. She thought about her life before marriage, the simple joys, the genuine relationships, the freedom to be herself. She thought about her life now, the luxury, the control, the loneliness. Around 2 a.m., she got out of bed and went to the window. The moon was full, casting a silver glow over the perfect garden. In the distance, she could see the security guard making his rounds. Everywhere she looked, there were barriers, the high walls, the security gates, the tracking devices. She was a prisoner in a beautiful prison. Quietly, she began to pack a small bag. She took only the clothes she had owned before her marriage, leaving behind all the expensive jewelry and designer outfits Vikram had bought her. She wrote a short note. I'm leaving. You can keep your money and your control. I'm going to find my happiness. She placed the note on her dressing table, along with the car keys with their tracking device. Then, with her heart pounding, she slipped out of her room and down the grand staircase. The house was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Maya moved quietly toward the back door, her small bag clutched tightly in her hand. She knew the security system code. She had watched Vikram enter it many times. With trembling fingers, she typed in the code. The system beeped softly and the door unlocked. She slipped outside into the cool night air. For a moment, she stood there, breathing in the freedom. Then she began walking toward the back gate. She knew there was a small gap in the fence that the gardeners used. She had noticed it during her lonely walks around the property. She squeezed through the gap, tearing her simple dress on the fence. But she didn't care. For the first time in months, she felt free. She walked quickly down the dark road, not knowing where she was going, only knowing that she was escaping her golden cage. With each step away from the mansion, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. She had no money, no plan, nowhere to go. But she had her freedom, and for now, that was enough. The night stretched before her, dark and uncertain. But for the first time since her wedding, Maya felt hope. The cool night air felt like freedom itself as Maya walked quickly down the dark, deserted road. Her heart was pounding, partly from fear of being caught, partly from the exhilaration of her escape. The simple cotton dress she wore, one of her old ones she had kept hidden at the bottom of her suitcase, felt more comfortable than all the designer outfits Vikram had bought her. For the first time in months, she was dressed as herself, not as the trophy wife Vikram wanted her to be. She walked for what felt like hours, her small bag growing heavier with each step. The wealthy neighborhood where Vikram's mansion was located gave way to more modest areas, and eventually to the familiar streets of her old neighborhood. Dawn was beginning to break, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, when she finally reached her parents' house. Taking a deep breath, she knocked softly on the door. After a moment, her mother opened it, dressed in her nightclothes, her eyes widening in shock when she saw Maya standing there with her small bag, looking tired and disheveled. "Maya Beta, what are you doing here? What happened?" her mother exclaimed, pulling her inside quickly. Once they were in the living room, with her father now awake and joining them, the whole story came pouring out of Maya, the coldness, the control, the tracking device, the loneliness, everything. She cried as she spoke, releasing months of pent-up misery and regret. Her parents listened in stunned silence. When she finished, her mother had tears in her eyes too. "Oh, my baby, I had no idea. We thought you were happy." Her father's face was grim. "We should never have pressured you to marry him. We thought we were doing what was best for you." "It's not your fault," Maya said softly. "I made the choice. I was swayed by the money and the luxury. I thought that was what would make me happy." "What will you do now?" her mother asked, wiping her eyes. "I need to find a job and a place to stay," Maya said. "I can't stay here. Vikram will look for me here first." Her father nodded. "You're right, but you need to rest first. You look exhausted." Maya spent the day resting at her parents' house, but as evening approached, she knew she had to move. Her father gave her some money from his savings, despite her protests, and helped her find a small, cheap room in a working-class neighborhood far from both their home and Vikram's mansion. The room was a stark contrast to what she had become accustomed to. It was small, with just a single bed, a small table, and a shared bathroom down the hall. But to Maya, it represented freedom, and that made it beautiful. The next morning, she began her search for a job. With her education and previous work experience, she quickly found a position as a receptionist at a small company. The salary was modest, but it was honest work, and she felt proud earning her own money again. Meanwhile, as Maya had predicted, Vikram did come looking for her. He arrived at her parents' house the day after her escape, angry and demanding to know where she was. "She's not here," her father told him firmly. "And even if we knew where she was, we wouldn't tell you. Our daughter is not your property." Vikram's face turned dark with anger. "She is my wife. She belongs with me." "A wife is a partner, not property," her mother said, her voice shaking but determined. "Now please leave." Vikram left, but he didn't give up. He hired private investigators to find her, but Maya had been careful. She used her maiden name, stayed in a neighborhood he would never think to look in, and kept a low profile. Weeks turned into months. Maya settled into her new, simple life. She enjoyed her work, made new friends at her job, and found happiness in small things: reading books from the local library, walking in the park, enjoying street food with colleagues after work. She was earning less in a month than Vikram spent on a single suit, but she was happier than she had ever been in his mansion. One Saturday morning, she was at a local market buying vegetables when she saw a familiar figure helping an old woman carry her groceries. It was Rohan. Their eyes met, and for a moment, they both stood frozen. Then Rohan finished helping the woman and walked over to Maya. "I heard you left him," he said softly. Maya nodded, her heart beating fast. "Yes, about 3 months ago." "I'm glad," Rohan said. "I was worried about you. You looked so unhappy that day at the market." They started talking, tentatively at first, then more freely as they walked through the market together. Maya told him everything: her escape, her new life, her regrets. Rohan listened without judgment, his kind eyes full of understanding. "I'm teaching at a new school," he told her. "It's in a poorer neighborhood, but the children are wonderful. We could use volunteers if you're ever interested." Maya started volunteering at Rohan's school on weekends. She helped the children with reading and art and found it incredibly fulfilling. She and Rohan spent more time together, slowly rebuilding the friendship and trust that had been broken. One evening, as they sat on a park bench after a long day at the school, Rohan turned to her. "Maya, I never stopped loving you, but I want you to be sure this time. I'm still the same simple school teacher. I can't give you the luxury life you had with Vikram." Maya looked into his eyes, her own clear and certain. "Rohan, I don't want that life anymore. I want a life with meaning. I want a life with you. The luxury, the money, it means nothing without love and freedom." Their second wedding was a small, simple affair held in the garden of her parents' house. There were no expensive decorations, no designer clothes, no luxury cars, but there was genuine love and happiness. Maya wore a simple silk sari that had belonged to her grandmother, and Rohan wore a clean, pressed kurta. Their guests were family and close friends, and the food was prepared by relatives. As they exchanged vows under a canopy of flowers that friends had gathered from their gardens, Maya's heart felt so full she thought it might burst. This was what true happiness felt like, not the empty perfection of Vikram's world, but the messy, genuine joy of being loved for who she was. After the ceremony, as they stood together accepting congratulations, Maya saw a familiar car drive slowly past the house. It was Vikram's luxury car. The window was tinted, so she couldn't see who was inside, but she knew it was him. The car paused for a moment, then drove away. For a second, fear gripped her heart, but then Rohan squeezed her hand and she felt safe. Vikram had no power over her anymore. Years passed. Maya and Rohan built a beautiful life together. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and taught them the values of kindness, honesty, and hard work. Maya started a small business helping women from poor neighborhoods learn skills to become financially independent. It was never about becoming rich. It was about making a difference. One day, about 10 years after her escape, Maya was at a business conference for small entrepreneurs when she saw Vikram. He was one of the keynote speakers, talking about business success and wealth management. He looked older, with more gray in his hair and lines on his face that hadn't been there before. He still wore expensive clothes and carried himself with an air of importance, but there was an emptiness in his eyes that Maya recognized all too well. After his speech, their eyes met across the room. Vikram hesitated, then walked over to her. "Maya," he said, his voice softer than she remembered, "you look happy." "I am," she said simply. "I heard about your work with women's empowerment," he said. "It's admirable." "Thank you," Maya said. She noticed he wasn't wearing a wedding ring. "Are you?" she began, then stopped, not sure how to ask. "Alone," Vikram finished for her. "Yes, the other women, they left too. It seems I'm not very good at making people stay." There was a sadness in his voice that surprised Maya. For the first time, she felt pity for him rather than fear. "I'm sorry," she said sincerely. Vikram looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment the cold businessman facade dropped. "I'm the one who should be sorry, Maya. I treated you badly. I treated all of them badly. I thought money and control could replace everything else. I was wrong." He paused, then added, "I heard you married that teacher, the one I warned you not to see." "Yes," Maya said, a soft smile touching her lips. "We have 2 children. He's a wonderful father and husband." Vikram nodded slowly. "I'm glad you found your happiness." He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just said, "Take care, Maya," and walked away. As Maya watched him go, she felt a chapter of her life finally, truly close. There was no anger, no regret, only peace. That evening, as she helped her children with their homework while Rohan cooked dinner in their small but cozy kitchen, Maya looked around at her life. The simple furniture, the children's drawings on the refrigerator, the love that filled every corner of their home, and she felt a gratitude so deep it brought tears to her eyes. She had learned the hard way that the most valuable things in life can't be bought or sold. They can only be earned through love, kindness, and living with integrity. When she tucked her children into bed that night, her daughter asked, "Mummy, what's the most important thing in life?" Maya kissed her forehead and said, "To love and be loved, my darling. And always remember, no car, no house, no amount of money is worth compromising your self-respect and happiness." Later, as she sat with Rohan in their small garden, watching the stars, she said, "You know, I'm actually grateful for everything that happened." Rohan looked at her curiously. "Grateful, even for the pain?" "Especially for the pain," Maya replied. "It taught me that the brightest gold isn't found in jewelry, but in a pure heart. The most valuable treasure isn't money, but genuine love. And the most beautiful journey isn't in a luxury car, but walking hand in hand with someone who truly loves you." Rohan squeezed her hand. "And I'm grateful you found your way back to what truly matters." They sat in comfortable silence, two souls who had chosen love over everything else and found the richest happiness possible. Narrator's closing. And so, dear listeners, we see that Maya's tears on that first wedding night were not an end, but a painful beginning. They were the water that washed the blindness from her eyes, allowing her to see that a heart filled with love is the only true fortune. Her story is a timeless reminder to us all. Never trade the gold of a sincere heart for the glitter of material wealth. For the most beautiful journeys are not measured in horsepower, but in the strength of the love that carries you through. Thank you for listening.